All right, I am Geeta Nadkarni. I am the founder of Impact with Influence, and you are here today because you are a coach, a consultant, or a course creator who wants to know how to get more discovery calls booked. Because let's face it, you could be the salesiest sales ninja in the world. I don't think that's a thing, by the way. But what's the point of having amazing sales skills if you just don't get enough calls booked? Or you might be somebody who is getting a lot of calls booked, but the quality is like, wah, right? So if that's your problem, we're going to talk today about getting both quality and quantity up. And if you want to know why I look like I just ran into a gang of pirates, well, I'm going to tell you in a second. All right, welcome back. So I'm going to tell you the story of how my face got to be like this bunged up. And this is actually pretty good because I've covered some of it up with makeup. Take a wild guess. You'll never guess. Here's the deal.
It's not me.
It's not bad.
It's not me.
I know. It's not bad. No, I could totally take him out.
I fell down the stairs when you took me down.
Yeah. That's right. No, it's my 4-year-old. This is why roughhousing is really for dads and not moms. I was roughhousing with her and she was being a pirate, but man, she's vicious. So she just like clawed my face, and the next thing you know, there was like blood dripping down my face. It was the craziest thing. So homeschool life. This is the same 4-year-old, by the way, who earlier this week when we were interviewing somebody that we're looking to hire, called 911 during the interview. And then my 9-year-old son runs up to me and he's like, "Mama, Boo just called someone with your phone and there's a lady on the line." And I'm like, I see that she's dialed 911 and I hanged up. And then of course the dispatcher calls me back and says, "Ma'am, do you have an emergency?" And I'm like, "No, my 4-year-old called you."
Yeah, we do have an emergency. We have a 4-year-old that's completely...
We have a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
That's right. I know, right? Hinda's like, mine's a pirate as well. I feel you. I mean, 4-year-old girls, man, they're feisty. Anyhow, so today we are going to be talking about some really juicy stuff, because I know that if you're a coach or a consultant or you're in the course creation space, you're looking to get more clients into your program, right? Especially if you sell at a premium. So today we're going to talk about how to get more discovery calls booked, both quantity and quality. So we're going to get into all of those details. If you're watching the replay, give me a big old hashtag replay. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because you're going to be notified every time I literally go live every week and do deep, in-depth trainings that are short, that are powerful, that are actionable. And if you want to get more value than your last $2,000 or $3,000 program in a 30-minute live, this is the place to be. All right. Today I want to know who's watching. Who's watching here? I see there's a bunch of you in there. Hello, Yoni. Hello, Hinda. Hi, Maji. Tell me where you're from. So tell me in the comments, where are you from and what is the topic that you coach on? What's your niche? Right? Niche, quiche, kitsch, whatever. Tell me where you're from and what your coaching topic is. And what I'm super interested, just based on today's topic, is why do you think you don't have enough calls booked? Maybe you haven't sat with that question yet. Maybe no one's really asked it to you. Maybe you think through half your answer and then just move into action. Like some of us have a bias for action, right? Lots of entrepreneurs do. So I want you to really sort of stop and think, what are your top 2 to 3 reasons that you believe, or even just one reason if you have a really big, powerful one that's kind of coming up for you. What is the reason? Tell me in the comments that you believe you're not getting enough calls booked. That's a really interesting question to explore. And obviously, based on what you tell me, I'll be able to give you more specific strategies. All right. While you tell me that, I'm going to launch right into the training because we don't have time to waste, right? I hope you brought a pen and a piece of paper because you need to take notes. The very first thing I want you to do is to stop tipping and tricking. And what I mean by this is, if you've been in the digital marketing space for any length of time, you have for sure been told you need to create massive value content. right? Like you basically need to give your people a whole bunch of tips and tricks. You're constantly sharing tips and tricks. Hey, you want to have this outcome? Do point one, do step one, step two, step three, step four, right? You're telling people what to do. Here's the problem with that. It's a little bit like giving a toddler a cupcake right before supper. Right now, think about it. That toddler is going to be thrilled to bits. You have successfully avoided a tantrum. And you know what you've done? You've gone and given somebody a whole bunch of sugar without any real nutrition, and you have killed their appetite for the main course. And that is how most coaches put content out there. That is literally what your content does. It fills up your audience's belly with superficial level things that like look and feel yummy on the surface, but aren't actually going to solve their deeper problem, i.e., aren't nutritious. But it curbs their appetite for the real thing. So what ends up happening when you share a bunch of tips and tricks is that people are like, oh my God, this is amazing. I totally should go and do this. I'm going to go do this. So those are the keeners, right? Those are the really motivated people. Now, the other people, and there's going to be a large swath of other folks, and tell me if any of you can relate to this. You've saved a post, you've gone and copy pasted it into a note. You're like, oh yeah, I'm totally gonna, like, you've downloaded some printable or some freebie or whatever. You've even bought one of those like $17, $37 things. You haven't logged in. You don't have time. How many of you can relate to this? You have a bunch of shit on your drive, in your notes, in your saved links, whatever, that you still haven't gotten back to. Most of your people are going to be struggling with this. And the reason, and you're creating it because you're giving them a whole bunch more to-dos. You're giving already overwhelmed, unclear people more to-dos, right? You're giving them something that's going to bog them down that they're eventually going to get to. But what you haven't done is identified clearly what their problem is and why they're having it. And so because you haven't done that yet, it's a bunch of noise. And it's going to, at some point, become overwhelming. And they're going to tune out. So that's what tipping and tricking will do. It will fill up their bellies and cost you your sale. Now, the second piece of this, yeah, exactly, right? Sneha's like, I haven't even gotten back to the $1,200 stuff. I'm telling you because the point of the matter is you bought a bunch of stuff based on some like scarcity, urgency, instinct thing that you had in a moment where you're like, oh yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. I should totally do that. That is the thing right now. 2 minutes later, that urgency is gone. You've moved on from that moment. But because you didn't have clarity on this is the actual root of my problem, you still don't know what the root of your problem is. So you can't evaluate this thing that you bought or downloaded or saved or whatever. Is that actually the answer, or is it yet another piece of spaghetti you're going to throw on the wall hoping something sticks? Does that make sense? And that's why that happens. Yeah, Devorah's like, I just bought that this week. There you go. So second thing is, we're back to the continuum. Move your prospects along the continuum. So instead of tipping and tricking, you're going to be like, well, Geeta, then what do I do? Move your prospects along the continuum. Shots.
Do you have water? Do you have enough water now?
I do not. I just drank it all.
Oh, God. That's a classic, man.
It is a classic. Why break tradition? It works. So here's the thing. What if you don't move people along? So here's what you do with the continuum. So those of you who are new to the concept of the continuum, here it is. The way it works is that you have the continuum. This is the journey that you've been on. On one side is bliss, and on the other side is pain. Pain is where you begin, right? It's the, oh my God, the hell that you were trapped in once upon a time. And then on the other side is nirvana, where you want to end up. This is what success looks like, the outcome, the desire. This is what lives on this side. In the middle is the sweet spot. In order for someone,
the pirate,
Ruby, you're here.
The pirate is there.
Hi,
for
the pirate. Come here, pirate. Here's the pirate. This is the pirate. The pirate is very.
She has food all over her face.
Oh, excellent. And you have a booger on your nose. You literally have a booger hanging out of her nose. This is perfect. My kid. All this to say that all this to say that you need to move your clients into the sweet spot. In the sweet spot is where they're going to raise their hand and they're going to say, you know what? I am done with this pain. I am tired of it. I'm ready to move on. It's time. I'm ready. Let's do it. And the reason that they have to be close to the sweet spot is because otherwise they can't peek into the bliss. If it's, I say this over and over, urgency, pain creates urgency. So pain will create the urgency to be like, I need a solution. That's why we download things and save things and buy things. It's because we have that urgency, right? That instinct to like solve the problem. But it is bliss that creates permission. This is where you're going to get the energy to stick to things. You're going to get the energy to invest, because investment is not just financial, right? You don't want to work with people who just pay you money but then never do the work. You're never going to get a single success out of that. You're not going to feel good about your work, right? So you want people that can see far enough into what's actually available to them that they're going to invest not just with their money, but with their time, with their attention, with their effort, and they're going to stick to the process long enough for the results to manifest. So you need to move, your free messaging needs to move people along the continuum. So what most other programs will give you a sense of is like how to attract the right people. Thank you, my love. They'll teach you how to attract the right people as if the right person is like a static state, right? Like it's like, there it is, like there are right people and then there's a bunch of wrong people. But that's not actually how it works. The continuum is an evolution. So what tends to happen is you yourself, as your own ideal client, hopefully you are your best client, you should be, right? Otherwise you have no business teaching this. But if you are your own best client, then you will at some point in your evolution have been so far back, mired in pain, that you wouldn't have been an ideal client yet being the operative word, right? Even you, if you from today in the present healed further down towards bliss, called your past self up, that past self would have told you to go straight to heck, because they're not ready to release their pain yet. I've been that person for sure, and I'm sure you have as well. So you have to be crystal clear about what you need to move. You need to ask that person very specific questions. So when we work with our clients, we help them sequence specific questions, and we help them structure their messaging in such a way that they're actually opening up the thinking process of the people who are a bit too far back on the continuum and moving them along the continuum. So instead of being like other programs that just teach you to attract your right fit people, we teach you to create your right fit people. So we don't have the problem that a lot of other folks have, where they're like, well, most of my circle is friends and family, and none of these people are the right fit for me. Well, if they're in your vortex, it's because you attracted them for a reason. Some of them, not all of them, will be the right fit for sure, but some of them will. And then we have a process that teaches you how to expand that circle, make new friends, expand your audience, no matter which platform you're on, so that you are now attracting in people who vibe at that level and who are very close to that sweet spot and are willing and able to move along the continuum into the sweet spot. So that's about how to move people along the continuum. Now, the third thing is articulate their pain and desire better than they can. There is no faster way to set yourself up and be an authority and attract and create trust with your ideal prospect, even if they've never heard your name, could never spell your name on the first try, right? Ask me how I know, right? But people will trust you. Why? Because you have the ability, you have dug so deep into your own journey and into the journey of your ideal client. And we have an entire process for this, where you're able to articulate their emotional state, the specifics of their problem, their pain, their desire better than they can. It's literally like you will voice a thought that they have half consciously thought. So all of this emotion is happening for sure in their subconscious, but their conscious mind sitting on top hasn't fully picked up and hasn't looked at it yet. So consciously, they're not even fully aware of it. They're only partially aware of it. But then you calling it out brings it all the way up to the surface. And they're like, oh my God, I totally feel that way. Oh my God, that's me. She's describing my life. How does she know me so well? That's the feeling that good messaging like this will create, because you need to be able to articulate their pain and their desire better than they can. So if you don't know how to do that, that's where you need to get in, either work with us or work with somebody else who can really go into the depths of it. And the way that we do it differently than most people do it. I don't know anybody else that does it this way. We literally have a team of mindset coaches that work with each of our clients one-on-one, because this is deep work. We're using hypnotherapy, we're using NLP. So the first thing that we do is we go into your, whatever your story is, the pain, your deepest fear, your deepest pain. We're like, all right, this is where all the blockedness is coming from. This is where you're not showing up because of this fear of rejection, fear of success, fear of abandonment, fear, all of the fear of failure, which is a similar thing to fear of success. I've talked about that before. Because of these fears, you're not fully showing up. You're kind of holding back pieces of yourself. So what tends to happen is that your ideal clients will mirror that showing upness, right? They will be somewhat deceptive. They might say that they're ready, but they're not actually ready. They may say that they want it, but they don't actually want it. Or it's a little bit like wearing a big Halloween mask and showing up to a party, and then all your friends are like, or all your ideal clients are like, man, when are they going to get here? And you're like, hello, over here. And you feel invisible because nobody's seeing you, nobody's acknowledging you, nobody's acknowledging the gift that you so desperately want to give them. And meanwhile, everybody else is like, I'm like, why is this person not showing up to help me yet? That's what tends to happen when you don't have that level of clarity. And this is why we work with our clients first to figure out, what are your blocks? What are your fears? We help you surface them. We help you release them. And then throughout this process, we've taken notes on what that is, right? There's a whole process we walk you through. Then we take your deepest fear and all of those stories, and we move them over to the copy team. And now the copy team will work with you one-on-one through our help desk to develop that into incredibly powerful, potent messaging. This is what helps you stand out from the crowd. And this is what helps you reach people where they're like, I feel like you know me. I feel like you're a sign, that kind of level of intimacy that you create. You don't have to outspend the competition. You don't have to care about the competition, because there is no competition at that level. Because the fact of the matter is, the way I understand coaching is, you got into coaching because this is the continuum of your journey. You have moved yourself along that continuum past the sweet spot towards nirvana. And now because you are healed, it is your responsibility to now move others like you along that continuum. The beautiful thing, the beautiful payoff about coaching at this depth is that every time you create a breakthrough, every time you create healing for somebody who is a little bit further back on the continuum than you re-experience your own healing. You re-experience your own breakthrough. By doing that, you're more healed. So literally, the work of healing someone else heals you. And in addition to that, you start to understand the work better. The work takes you deeper. It never gets old. It never becomes boring. It never becomes something that you outgrow, because you're not doing a whole bunch of surface level tactics that at some point you're just like, oh, how did I even get here? You're always going deeper into the quest for your truest truth. That is what I believe coaching is. And so you're deeply invested in making the work work. And because you're that deeply invested, because you're willing to develop processes.
Sorry, there's no good moment to do that, but
to stand the test of time.
To stand the test of time.
Are you undressing me on camera?
Well, as in, it's...
What is happening?
As in, it's showing.
Oh.
As in, I was trying
My other headphone?
Yeah. It's the wire, I'm sorry.
I was on a roll.
Hello. I know. There's no good moment to do that. I'm sorry. There's no moment to interrupt you. You're just flow of consciousness.
Okay, cool. Where were we? All this to say that when you're doing healing from that place where you're now looking to attract people that are essentially a version of yourself, that's the most effortless, right? Those are the people you can help and heal the most effortlessly, is people like you who've been through something similar to you. You have done your own processes yourself. You have broken them down, because they will break. If you use something long enough, it's going to break, right? You have rebuilt it because you're that committed to healing. You've rebuilt it. It has now become more robust as as a result of your continuous, consistent use of it. Now you have something solid to offer your people. When they break it and you are committed to rebuilding it, it becomes even more robust. I like, one of my favorite things about our program is watching our clients combine their genius with what I've created. So it makes it so much better. It makes it bigger. It makes it better. It makes it more effective. We've had clients take our path messaging methodology and then add their own spin to it. So something that I would never in a million years have thought of, they've now added to it because my way didn't work out of the box exactly right for them. It gave them enough juju and enough momentum to sort of move forward, but then in order to really accelerate, they added their own genius. So what I like about this, and this is what we do, is we teach in frameworks. There's no absolute recipe that applies to everybody. We teach in frameworks, which leaves enough room for your intelligence to come in, for your genius to come in and play. Because if you didn't have that level of genius, then the universe wouldn't have tapped you on the shoulder to do this work. That's what I believe. So if this is your purpose and this is your work, then there's plenty of room for your genius to come in and interact with what we've created to create a whole new expanded framework, which is how you then message with your people. Does that make sense? So that's my point about articulate their pain. Now, understand their core objections. This is one of my favorite parts, is getting people, like on our group coaching calls. I don't know if you've been in group programs before. It can be really frustrating where people kind of shut you down, or like the head coach kind of shuts you down if you have a problem or if you have something that they don't know how to deal with. They shut you down, they ignore you, they don't engage, right? Or you're shamed or told that it's your fault or you're not showing up or any of that stuff. Sometimes people need to be called out and been like, are you actually showing up? Is this how you're showing up? And let's look at that. But what my favorite way to do it is to say, okay, you've got resistance. Let's lean into the resistance. Let's look towards the resistance and see what the resistance is here to serve us. And this is not just the person with the resistance. This is the entire freaking group, right? I'm learning at the same time. And then we look at, like, if you've got this objection, if you've got this resistance, if you've got this energy around a term or an offer or a price point or a process or whatever the deal is, you're like, this is not working, I don't like it, whatever that is, then we're like, all right, let's peel back the layers of this, because if it's coming up in you, it is 100% going to come up in your client base. And we need to figure out how to move you through this resistance so that you can then share by the others through the resistance too. So you need to really understand your client's objections. My favorite thing to do is to deal with these objections in our front end messaging, in the lives that we do, in all of these places, so that we don't have to deal with them on the discovery calls themselves. Because, like, why would you do all of that work in that short amount of time when you have so much expansiveness and abundance available, where all your interactions help your clients move through their own resistance? That's what moving along the continuum actually is. It's moving people through their resistance, helping them understand what's actually available to them, which they may not actually understand, helping them see where they're blocked, and giving them the tools to unblock themselves, moving them into that sweet spot. Does that make sense? So that's what we help our clients do, and that's my advice to you. Now let's talk about getting quality up alongside quantity, because who wants to get on 50 freaking calls, which are just free therapy sessions? Am I right? How many of you have that problem? Because that can be really draining and really exhausting. Or when you're talking to people and you're like, why am I attracting all these people? They're so not the right fit. So I'm not going into detail here about really captain obvious things like have a call to action. But I'm going to say it because sometimes people, and when we've diagnosed, when someone's like, man, I'm doing all the things and it's not working, I'm like, all right, let me take a look at what you actually did. And that's one of the things about our program, is you're submitting exactly what you're putting out there so that we can look at it and see what's working and what isn't. And so then we'll notice, man, there's no call to action on this, or your call to action is so soft and so subtle that it's like people just don't take action. You haven't given them an offer. You haven't given them exactly clarity on what exact next step they need to do. Do they slide into your DMs? Do they book a call? Is there a link there? Like, what is the action they're meant to take? Sometimes that's not there. Sometimes there's too many calls to action. So sometimes, and what I notice about situations like this is that there's almost always an underlying mindset issue here. There is a true fear around, if I were truly seen, if I were to put my desire to work with these people out there, if I were to truly make an honest invitation here, I'm terrified of the rejection that I would face. And therefore, I'm going to just, soft pedal it, slide it under the rug, make it real subtle. So I'm not salesy because, ew, who wants to be that guy? There's a difference between being a really sleazy sales type person and giving somebody a clear, open, genuine invitation. A lot of clients don't know how to do that and feel good about it. So for us, it's not about, oh, hey, do these words, because if energetically you're still not actually open to people reaching out, it's not going to work, right? So we have to figure out what's holding you back. What's the block there? What's the fear there? What's the thing that you're rubbing up against that's preventing you from showing up as who you truly are and leading the people that you were designed to lead? So I'm not going to get into the obvious things like make sure there's a call to action, but make sure there's a call to action. Okay. Now, in terms of getting quality up with it as well as quantity, have a deliberate application process. Now, all of our clients have our own process. There's an application form that you're going to have to fill out. You don't just get to book a free call and waste somebody's time. Like, that's not how this works. We want to help. Our time and resources are limited, same as yours, right? So we want to help people who are the right fit and who are in the sweet spot, who have they've moved through a certain level of continuum. They understand what's actually available to them. They just need some support and they need clarity and they need help kind of making that leap. Those are the people that we want to work with. And those are the people we want to get on a call with, because those are the people that we're in the best position to help. So we have an application process that we've designed, and we get every single one of our clients to create a similar one for them. And you know what's really cool about this? Again, we teach in frameworks, right? So we have our basic framework. We have the specific questions that work for our business, but your business might be totally different. So what do you do? So we help our clients customize each individual question on their application form. And here's what that does. It helps you see from the application the quality of the applicant, right? You are well within your rights to just cancel a freaking call, because people do not have the right to your calendar or to your time and energy if they're not showing up and matching your intention. That's the way I look at it. So if somebody does a really crappy job and gives me monosyllabic, the text version of a monosyllabic answer on a form, we just cancel them. We're like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to waste my team's time talking to people who don't show up for themselves. We're crystal clear on who we're able to help. We're not able to help people who don't have even that minor level of investment up front. We don't do that. But asking the right sequenced questions, we had clients who literally changed, based on, so we had a client who had an offer out. She had an application, and then she had 2 people apply. Neither of them closed. We're like, all right, what did we learn? So we have a process where I teach people how to win every single call, because you may or may not close the sale, although with our sales training, you're closing between 50 and 70%. So out of every 10 calls you get, you're closing somewhere between 5 and 7. Generally. So if you're really terrible at sales, maybe 30%. So that's 3 out of 10. And then we have outliers who are closing at 90%, but these are people who are great at sales. They ooze charisma. They know what they're doing. They just needed a framework that worked, right? Now, here's the thing though. That's not going to happen if you haven't created some thought process with the client ahead of time, and using your questions to do that can be a really powerful tool. So we had this client who so I was like, let's win every call. Your first 2 calls didn't close. What did we learn? What were the specific things about these people that made them not the right fit? You either didn't make them an offer or they didn't want to proceed. And we changed and tweaked the questions on her form. And after that, man, she closed call after call after call after call. She made $35,000 in a week. Like it was just that simple. And we've had other clients, one in the restaurant business, one in the dance studio. Like he teaches his clients how to create and run very successful dance studios. They actually used their application form and positioned it as an assessment tool. So what was really cool about this is that not only were their prospects filling out the application form in very thoughtful detail, but they were shopping it around to others in the space, being like, hey, you should take this assessment. You should take this assessment. And then he was being fed calls where you know what I mean? Like where he was able to evaluate, oh, either you go to my group where I can nurture you because you're not ready, or you're ready to jump on a call and let's talk. So that you can position it. If you have a really well designed application form, you can also position it as a diagnostic tool, which is really fun. All right. And the final piece, obviously, is to have a really powerful sales process, because everything, I've talked about the continuum of your client's journey, but the fact of the matter is your entire sales process is a process. It's a journey. It has to take your prospect from they've never heard of you, they're not 100% sure what you do, what your deal is, they can't spell your name, to here's my credit card, I'm going to pay you 20 grand, I'm going to pay you 5 grand, I'm going to pay you 30 grand, whatever that is, right? That's what you want to have happen. In order for that to happen, you have to have a continuum that you've designed that makes that frictionless for the client. Now, you don't think about it, right? If you have a really great sales flow, you don't actually need that many calls. Do the math for yourself, right? I don't know what your income goal is. Take your monthly income goal, divide it by the price point of your program. So let's say your monthly income goal is $20,000, let's say, right? And your program is $5,000. 20,000 divided by 5,000 is 4. You need to sell 4 seats in your program. So think about it. If you have a really good sales process and you've got the right training, you have a strong application process, you've identified your client really well with your front end messaging, where people are like, man, this thing sounds like manna from heaven. I can't believe somebody has designed a solution for my problem. That so clearly calls out exactly who I am and where I'm stuck and what it feels like and all this other good stuff. They're coming to the call pre-educated, excited, wanting to close. Like that's what that creates. And now when you have the right sequence of questions to walk them through, where you're basically evaluating them and saying, are you the right person for me to pour my energy into so that we can have this transformation? Or is it just not, either you're not the right fit, or maybe you are the right fit, it's not the right time for whatever reason. You're now in the position of getting to choose. And if you have this process, you're never selling. And it's so powerful. And think about it. How many calls would you need to have in order to close at 30%, which is like on the low end for many of our clients, right? Or how many would you need to close? How many calls would you need to have booked, right? If you're closing at 30%, you'd need 10 calls to close 3. If you're closing at 40%, you'd need 10 calls to close 4, which means you only need 10 calls in a month to close 4 to make your $20,000 goal. If you're closing at 50%, which many of our clients are, then you only need 5 calls to close, right? So you might close 5, which means you're at 25K. So that's how that works. So having a really robust sales process can really change your game, where you don't have to have like 30,000 calls booked at all times. You just need a handful of really great quality calls. And I will tell you this, there are clients who literally they'll go live and they don't have a lot of people like on their lives. They'll have 2 or 3 people watching, but out of those 2 or 3 people, one will book a call and they will close. And again, when you have a premium program, you don't need that many. So if you need help on how to do this, if you need help on how to sequence your questions, if you need a framework that leaves enough room for you to add your voice, your passion, your energy, your essence, your genius, then use the link on your screens. This is a CTA, by the way. See, that's a CTA. This makes sense in the context of everything that I've shared, where I've given you enough. If you're smart enough and you've got it enough to go and implement with what I've given you, have at it. But most people, they have all the subconscious stuff happening under the surface where they're not able to have the level of clarity where they're like, oh, just that 20% tweak changes the game, right? If you're looking for those tweaks, if you're looking for a team that's going to look not just at your business, but how you are intimately connected to that business and how your energy and essence is creating either stuckness or flow in your business, and help you learn to use tools to navigate that. So you're coaching yourself, which makes you a better coach, which then gives you the tools to coach better, which allows you to charge more. That's what the link on the screen is for. Does that make sense? Let's take some questions. Does anybody have questions?
I have kept a few questions. There's one from Greer.
Ooh,
let me just let this lower third disappear a second. And I'm going to
see it. What if you're not that far ahead of your client? You're still stuck in some of the mile you want to deliver them from. Okay, great question, Greer. And I often work with clients who have a lot of shame around this exact topic of like, but I'm stuck still, or I'm not fully successful. I haven't reached the, capital O outcome yet. Then do I have permission to move people along this continuum? So I'll give you the example of a client that we worked with. So she was a business coach, so similar to us, but different style and whatnot. So she was a business coach. She could prove that her processes were really robust. She was able to work with clients and get them huge results. I saw the testimonials on her site. She shared some of the results, the befores and afters with me. And I was like, okay, clearly you've got it going on. Why is this not working for you? Right? What we realized was oftentimes we block ourselves because there's worthiness. So there was a lot of worthiness and some energy around receiving money. She had a story from her childhood where she had taken some money from her mom and her mom broke down and cried, and she had so much shame for causing that kind of pain that she was like, I cannot take money. And so she was not taking money. That was her issue. And this is a memory that she had not thought about for 40 years. She had not even thought about it. She didn't remember that it had happened. It only came out because of mindset work. So what happened was, in her case, her problem was taking the money. So we helped release that, and she was able to move forward. So Greer, the long story short answer to your question is, if your process were to be applied to somebody that didn't have some of the emotional blocks that you might still be carrying, would it work for them? Right? Do you believe that the processes are robust enough? P.S. A really good way to test and figure this out is to, again, be your own best customer. Use your processes on yourself, because that is the deal. Like, you can work with us as a mindset team to kind of help you learn faster and move your subconscious blocks out of the way. But it is in continuing to develop and test and rebuild and break down and rebuild your processes on yourself that you're going to have that deep, resonant confidence in the fact that they work, because they work for you. And when somebody comes to you and says, man, Greer, I don't know what to do about this. Like, I tried doing it, but it didn't work. You'll be able to be like, did it not work because of this? And you'll be able to pinpoint the exact point where it broke, and you're gonna be like, here's what the solution is gonna be. You're not gonna be like, oh, well, just try harder, right? Like, nobody wants to work with that coach, and yet many of us do. So don't be that coach. And the way to not be that coach is to just take your own medicine. Don't be afraid when things break down. When things break down, that is the laboratory. It's not the laboratory. When things break down, it's the printing press where all your money gets printed. I'm serious. When your process breaks down, if you have the courage to look right at the break and say, I'm committed to fixing this. I'm committed to evolving this process. I'm committed to figuring out something that will work over time, over changing circumstances, over a person's evolution through the process. That's free money. That's what you want to do. Hopefully that answers your question. Do we have any more?
There was one that our dear Oz, Susan, I don't want to be like, how do you deal with money objection? But that's a whole topic in itself.
That's a whole topic unto itself. And I believe I have a training about this.
Yeah,
so go check the media section. I have an entire training about how to deal with I believe it's the money objection. There's a whole bunch of objections, specific trainings on specific objections that I've done. So you, friend, are served. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I will see you next Thursday. And we're going to get some of our clients to come on here and share some of their experiences. So if you have specific questions, I'm going to put up a post where you can ask your questions, especially some of you had questions around, can I do one-on-one, or, can I actually effectively transition from one-on-one to group? And will I lose clients, and will I lose effectiveness? Like, will I compromise results? So I know you guys had some questions about that. I'm going to bring on our clients that have made this transition, so you don't have to take my word for it, and they will share their experiences with you. Mwah. All right, I will see you all next Thursday.